All right.
Go ahead, Greg.
Oh, good evening. All right, a quorum being present, this meeting will come to order. Pursuant to the applicable law and my determination that attendance by remote means is necessary because an in-person meeting is not practical nor prudent due to the declared public health disaster caused by COVID-19, this meeting is being conducted via video conference, and the meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the SSA website shortly. Let's look at our minutes. Rod, thank you for circulating the minutes, the September 27th meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes? All right, well, if there are no objections, the minutes are accepted as circulated. Thank you, Raymond and Rod. Let's see, I do have one question about general minutes, not about this particular last month's meeting, but we've started to capture a lot of the financial data on our minutes, repeating what was already stated in some of the financial reports. And I'm a little, I guess I'd like to leave it up to the board. The concern with putting too much information is that we have to sort of audit again and make sure that the minutes match the financials. Otherwise, we could accidentally approve minutes with different financials. And it sort of opens us up needlessly. So, there's some things that the minutes should cover. The bottom, the summary of, I just don't think we need all the details. And I wanted to hear from the board whether you felt the same way or whether this was just me and I should let it go. Okay.
I would concur with what Greg is saying, that the minutes should record the basics of the financials, but they don't need to have the detail. I think a simple statement of the bank account that, we're observing it and that, the finances were accepted. And if anybody wants all the numerical detail, then they request the financial report. It might be good when the minutes are completed each time, just to make sure Greg has a chance to read through them and so he can make suggestions like that. So it streamlines the minutes.
I have a question. So then do these attachments get attached to the minutes, or are they just for us?
Good question. Are we posting the financials, Rod?
No, I don't think we're posting the financials, but the financials. That's a good question. Let me research that a little bit in terms of how we present those financials, especially for public consumption.
Probably not, but double check it, Rod. But the audited financials for sure, but probably not the individual monthly financials.
Yeah, I'm all for transparency. It just seems like we made a change in the last couple of months in our minute taking. So I thought it was worth calling out.
Yes, and Mike is right. The audit report is automatically public information. The city publishes those on the city's website. So that's fair game for everyone to go look at.
Okay. All right, well, let's go to, thanks for your feedback. Let's go to questions and comments from our guests. Dr. White, do you have any questions for the board? Okay.
As I unmute, and I've been muted because I sound like this. So no questions for the board at this time. I appreciate attending this public meeting.
Thanks for joining. We are very happy to have you. Isaac, are you prepared to report on the financials?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
All righty. Well, Good evening to everyone. You have your September 30th financials for the SSA number 61. Total cash in bank is at 61,680 compared to 117. And we all know the story. There's been no second half tax collections, and that's reflected in our receivable balance being high as well at 294 compared to 73,000. So total assets is at 356,156 compared to 190,617. And if you look at that difference, 165, that kind of mirrors the 147, 148 second half of your installments that you have not received. Moving down to your liabilities, your accounts payable is at 7,518 compared to 14. Deferred revenue is 272,688 compared to 260. Due to SECC, it's 19,079. And basically, that's all due to cash management because of their no new tax collections. Right now, the SECC is picking up the administrative costs. So therefore, their balance is going to build up. So total liabilities at 299, 285 compared to 279, 394. Coming down to our net assets, temporary restricted at 65,375 compared to 78,665. Net surplus is at a shortage of 8,504 compared to 167,443 this time last year. So total net assets at 56,871 compared to a shortage of 88,777. So total liabilities and net assets, 356,156 compared to 190,617. So that's your statement of financial position as September 30th, 2022 compared to 2021. Any questions before we move on to our budget versus actual? All righty, if not, so our budget versus actual. So as we said, no tax collections, so this has not changed. Year to date is 148, and what's remaining to be collected is right around 147. As it relates to expenses, 1.0 customer attraction, yeah, 1,500 for the month, 7,800 budgeted for the month. For the year, you had 34,000 compared to a budget of 70,000, and you still have a remaining of 59,000 to spend if you had the liquidity. 2.0 public way aesthetics, 2.112 garbage removal, 5,524 compared to a budget of 9,173. Year to date, 62,580 compared to a budget of 82,561. And so you still have 47,000 for budget 501 to spend if you had the liquidity. We are not expending anything for 3.0 or 4.0 or 5.0. 6.0 management, total expenses at 978 compared to budget of 1,868. Year to date, 13,366 compared to a budget of 16,808. We still have another 9,000 to spend for the remaining of the year. Personnel, 5,203 compared to a budget of 4,833. For the year, 46,828 compared to a budget of 43. And you still have a remaining amount of budget of 11,000 for the remaining part of the year. So when you look at your total expenses for the month, you had 13,000 compared to 29 for the month, 156 year to date compared to 261. And then for the budget, you still have 191,000 in expenses, but because you don't have the liquidity, we slowed everything down. So when you take your revenues, which is 0 for the month, less your expenses, you have a shortfall of 13. For the year, a shortfall of 8,504. So at this time, that's the conclusion of the financial report for SSA 61 as of September 30th, 2022, 2021.
Thank you. George, would you be willing to share your tracker?
Sure. Let me switch to my share screen. And this will be quick because there's very limited activity going on right now. So there's not a lot to track. But here's our monthly tracker, which hopefully all the commissioners received in the mail recently. The key story is, of course, this top bar across the top where it says tax revenue, and you will see all the boxes are blank because there hasn't been any. Because of that, our spending is drastically reduced, and we're relying heavily on the Southeast Chicago Commission to carry any balances that we don't have. The most important part of this is down at the very bottom, where what we've spent year to date, 156,962. That if we look at that carefully, we will find that it matches 156,962 from Isaac's report. So we're on target down to the penny, as we try to be every month, so that there's no discrepancy between our fiscal report and our little shorthand budget tracker. So we're right on target, and we'll just keep watching for those tax revenues to show up at some point. Questions from anyone?
Thank you. Rod, do you want to catch us up on the work plan public meeting?
Yeah, we're just a little bit above that. Okay, yeah, you've got both. You mentioned both together. I apologize. Hold on one moment as I share the screen. And whoops, excuse me. All right, here we are. What I'm doing is actually tracking the outflow, which is the checkbook. So you see at the top, the August number was at 66,000. Our September number is 61,000. So there's a difference of almost $5,000. And the reason we're able to manage the checkbook slowly is because we're billing both. We're having some expenses taking out of the checking account, and then the SECC is footing the bill for some of the other things. Generally, these top items, these are contracted or contractual obligations that we have. There is a charge in red where sometimes our vendors send in checks. They don't send them in 1 month and then they send 2 in the same month. That's, while it was recorded in Isaac's and George's financials, it's still outstanding in the checkbook. So it doesn't reflect this $61,000 yet. But in this column here, I have what's been billed to the SSA that comes out of the checkbook. And that's roughly the 4,700 here. What's billed to the SCCC, as you know, they are performing that financing for us. Isaac, there is one item that's being billed to the SSA, which should go to the SECC. I believe that expense for the accounting is on auto pay. So auto pay needs to be shut off. This is probably going to occur also in October because it comes at the beginning of the month. So auto pay needs to be shut off, and then you need to take that money from the SECC. The totals do approximately track the budget tracker and the financial account from Isaac. I do have a question, Isaac, regarding the amount due to the SECC on the first page. And you and I just probably need to get into that number and figure out just what's in it. It's going to grow, but my number here, I just have a total that what's billed to the SECC is about $5,600, and you have a $19,000 figure there. So we just need to kind of delve into.
Yeah, because that includes more than 1 month. Yours include 1 month, but that's
Right.
like three months of expenses.
Right. But technically, that number should be out of the checking account at some point. And
No,
we just
never
really
paid it. When we found out that the cash is not coming in, that's when we stopped doing transfers. So that's a
Okay.
accumulation of 3 or 4 months that where we didn't reimburse the SECC.
All right, you and I need to really nail down what that number is, because at some point we have to pay the SECC back. And
that's
if it's that
if you look
number,
on the detailed spreadsheet on the financials, it shows you every month what's billed, what's charged to that account, but the cash never got paid out. So
okay,
yeah, so that 5,600, that's what that is, that 19,000.
right. But my understanding is we started doing this in September.
Yeah, but the SECC was behind in billing.
Okay,
That's what it
all
was.
right, okay. Well, we'll get together and kind of figure that one out. I need to know what that number really is. So that's the first one. Second one is the public meeting. Many of us were at the public meeting. Our budget from 2022 to 2023 was over a 5% year-over-year increase. So we just had a public meeting prior to this meeting. And that's all the reporting I have to talk about in terms of finances.
Thank you.
Greg?
Dr. White, you've been so patient. Do you have a question?
I do, and you'll have to please forgive my ignorance of the process. Excuse me, but in broad strokes, I guess, could you explain the timeline or expected timeline for the tax revenues to arrive, and is this a normal timing, and can that be explained just in broad strokes?
It's a great question. Rod,
Yeah.
do you want to
Yeah.
answer it?
Yeah, in broad strokes, there was a problem with a computer. The county assessor was transferring over to a new computer system. And because of that, the assessor and the appeals didn't align, and it delayed all of our tax bills. So anyone that's on any property, you haven't gotten your tax bills, which you would have gotten in July. And the money that comes from that would have been dispersed to us in this August and September timeframe. So we're waiting for everybody to be billed, and then that tax money will start rolling in. Reports from, quotes from the assessor and the Cook County Board President says that those bills should be coming out within the next month, middle of November. So we're all hoping and crossing our fingers on that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that explanation.
Isaac, thanks for the September financials. Are there any objections to the information Isaac reported? All right, then the financials are accepted as circulated. Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Everybody have a great evening.
You too.
Take care.
Let's talk about our reconstitution. Rod.
Okay, very quickly on reconstitution, our next meeting is Thursday, the 27th. And what we will be doing is we will be finishing up the feasibility study, which is due on the 1st of November. We will also be looking at an RFP for a reconstitution consultant. So those are the things we're covering and should have, for the most part, be complete by the end of the week.
Okay. Any questions about reconstitution? All right.
I'm sorry, what's that date again that you noted?
The date that the feasibility study is due is November 1st. So that's next Tuesday.
And you noted a date Thursday, the 27th, or am I mistaken, the 7th?
I'm sorry, the next reconstitution meeting is the 27th. So the committee will convene on the 27th. I believe that's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So the committee will convene on the 27th to finalize anything that needs to be done with the feasibility study and with the RFP for the consultant.
Understood. Thank you.
Rod, could you check that time for sure? I just checked my calendar and I'm showing 3.
Okay,
So
it's
just for my own
probably
use, it's
3.
3 or 4.
It is 3. I just put it in the chat.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I apologize. I'm, trying to remember this off the top of my head. So,
Okay, let's move along. Rod, you sent out the next year's committee's board member, excuse me, commissioner schedule for our board meetings. Is there anything to talk about?
let me go ahead and share the screen. Okay. The one thing in particular to note is the commissioners meeting, which is the last column. It's the 4th Tuesdays of each month, unless otherwise noted. The asterisk says that the meeting is on a differently scheduled date. That's usually our December meetings or our meetings around holidays. So these are the committees. The first one is the program committee. The second one is the finance committee, and the last one is the commissioners meeting committee. I do believe that you all might have to take action on the commissioners meetings. George?
Yeah, we need to approve the schedule.
Okay.
But I don't see a time on the commissioner meetings. Am I
Okay.
missing that?
Yeah, I don't have the
also-
times.
Also, the meeting in March is an evening meeting. The version that was sent out to all of us noted that for March.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize. I have like a dozen of these and I have confused which one I've sent out, or at least the one that I'm posting right now. So what I'll do for the commissioners meetings only is I'll send out the schedule with the times, because the committee meetings, we all can get together on the committee and decide what's convenient for us. But the commissioners meetings have to be posted, and then that goes to SharePoint. So this was more or less kind of a presentation, and then I'll send those out and then we can confirm those in the next meeting. Bless you.
Okay. There are no chairman updates tonight.
I think Rod needs to have a commission vote or approval on the agenda. So it's the kind of thing we can do. I mean, with a meeting schedule for next year, it has to be approved by the commission.
I thought he said he wanted to do that next month. Did you say you were going to recirculate, Rod, the accurate schedule?
Yes, I want to recirculate the accurate schedule so that when we get together in December, we can approve it and then it can be posted to SharePoint.
Sorry. Got it.
Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners?
I just want
All
to
right.
thank whoever, I think you were in touch with the city, or Rod was, about all the graffiti under the 53rd Street Viaduct. It's a lot of it has now been painted over. It's nice and white.
Yeah, Mary, I did have to follow up with the city on that. And you noted that it was there a lot longer because you discussed that with me. And then you discussed it with me again and again. So I more or less had to chase the city down and try and get that removed. And I sent new and updated pictures.
Great. Thank you for chasing them down. The next thing I'd like you to chase them down on is the water that's accumulating at 53rd and Lake Park. Today, there was so much water that it was up on the sidewalk. And just to get around the corner at Akira, people had to walk through the water.
Okay, which corner is that?
Southwest.
I think it's the leaves a lot of time because it was also that way at 52nd and Harper.
Maybe, but there really aren't very many leaves there. The problem, part of the problem is that when they put in that new the cutaway on the sidewalk, they did what was a temporary fix. What they told us at that time was a temporary fix. And it's actually down too low. And so the water from the street collects there. And it's the curb should be built up higher, and the drain doesn't function well in that
Okay.
corner.
This is the Akira side?
It is the Akira side.
Okay. All right. This is the distinction with the difference, because that's where the ward boundaries are. So we always
Well, I
have to
would
know
say
which
this
ward-
is in the 5th ward.
Right.
It's on the
This is the
5th ward side of the street.
Okay, that gives me the person I need to chase down.
Is there any further business before we adjourn? All right.
This might
there
be a
being-
record meeting.
We've
Yeah.
become very efficient. There being no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for staying late tonight and drive home safely.